Hey everyone, how's it going? Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com. This is the post Clash of Champions video here on NoDQ.com's YouTube channel. I am being joined by the Power of Pain, David Payne. How's it going, David?
Hey buddy, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I thought that this show was a solid effort by WWE, the usual solid effort, but I really felt that there was no big angle on this show to really get people invested in watching Raw tomorrow night. And Raw is going to have a lot of competition. You have the football game as usual, plus you have the first presidential debate. So it's going to be a rough night for Raw, and I was really hoping WWE would do something major on this show, like a huge cliffhanger, and we did not get that. But I will say it was a very solid night of in-ring action, and overall, I would say it was a good show. What were your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I'd definitely give it a B plus. The in-ring action was phenomenal. I thought everybody tried to give their best match. I mean, heck, even the Cesaro-Sheamus match people were getting into. And I noticed too that there was a lot of, if you looked out in the main camera shot, there was a lot of adults there. Wasn't many kids, so a lot of smart marked audience, if you will, and they were pretty into it. I give Indianapolis credit; they're a good wrestling town.
Yeah, I thought that the crowd was pretty good for the most part. There were some points where they did not make a lot of noise, but for most of the matches, by the time things got close to the end, the fans would get into it. So I would say it was a pretty good crowd and pretty good show overall. So let's go ahead and break this down. We had the kickoff match, Nia Jax versus Alicia Fox. Really, this was exactly what I expected. Alicia Fox got a little bit of offense, but in the end, it was a showcase for Nia Jax, and she won with the Samoan drop. So it was what it was. Nothing much to it. Anything you want to add? Your thoughts?
No, not too much. It was probably Nia Jax's longest match out of all the matches she's had on Raw so far. So, but yeah, I mean, as to be expected, they're trying to make her a monster.
Yeah, and I think Fox actually got a 2 count at one point. I think that's the first 2 count somebody has gotten on Nia. So Alicia did get a little bit of offense in there. Was it a total squash?
No, not completely.
Yeah. And then we started off the main pay-per-view show with the tag team title match. The New Day versus Anderson and Gallows. Good match. Very solid back and forth action. Actually, Anderson and Gallows were dominant early, and it actually took Xavier's trombone, Francesca, to aid the New Day in being able to retain the titles. So tomorrow night on Raw, they will be celebrating 400 days as the tag team champions. Your thoughts on this match?
It's funny because they're the babyface team, yet it seems like half their matches are won by, some kind of, third man interference or the trombone or just something fishy,
right.
So I find that kind of ironic that they're so over with the kids and stuff and they're marketable. But yeah, they're going to come up on that record. And, it's a record that was bound to be beaten sooner or later. Demolitions we're speaking of.
Yeah. And the next pay-per-view is Hell in the Cell, which is the end of October. It's looking like New Day is going to break the record. I would be shocked if they lost right before breaking the record. It's looking like it's going to happen now. The fact that they retained on tonight's show. And what do you think about Anderson and Gallows? Do you think that they have just lost all their momentum, or do you think they can bounce back from this?
Well, it all depends. I don't know. I mean, if they can keep having credible matches, then maybe people can get and say, oh, well, maybe they'll get better on the mic. I like what they do in the ring. But, giving them that Dr. Gallows and Dr. Anderson, it's just lame. I don't know. Let those guys just go out there and just be wrestlers and just give them a badass gimmick. Don't let them be anything corny. And I think they'll be fine. I think they'll fit in. Yeah. There's room for the tag teams now, so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with them if they're able to regain momentum, if they'll get another shot at the tag titles. We'll see if this feud continues. Maybe they can get a third person to help them out to even the odds. As weird as that sounds, considering they're the heels, that they might actually need a third person to even the odds against the babyface New Day tag team. Very weird, but the crowd...
It is. Weird logic.
The crowd is still really into New Day. They have brand new Who t-shirts, and the crowd was doing the Who, Who all night long. Every time people were kicking out a 2, the fans would go, 2, 2, 2.
Yeah,
So
their merch sells though. I mean, they'll keep going with them as long as they keep selling the way they do. So
exactly. So as long as New Day's moving merchandise, I mean, there's no reason for WWE to stop pushing them as the tag team champions. So they could theoretically be champions into the new year. I mean, if they continue to stay even remotely as popular as they've been, we'll see what happens with that.
yeah,
Uh, so next up, we had the Cruiserweight title match. We had T.J. Perkins against the Brian Kendrick, or maybe it's just Brian Kendrick again. I'm not sure. Perkins has brand new music. I think it's brand new music. It sounded like it was from the Mega Man 2 video game, if you're familiar with that game. There's
yeah, yeah.
there's a Dr. Wily stage, and that entrance theme reminded me exactly of that song from Mega Man 2 when Mega Man's going to fight Dr. Wily. So I think it was done intentionally because TJ's Twitter handle says Mega TJ Perkins or something like that. So I do think that was the influence for that song, which I like. I like the theme song, and I like the gear. So he's kind of like the video game nerd type character, which is fine with me. This match was a little bit interesting because it wasn't like the Cruiserweight Classic matches. It was more submission based and more mat based. Not as many crazy high flying maneuvers. Do you think that this was a good idea, or they should have just gone all out doing all the crazy stuff that they've done during the Cruiserweight Classic?
Yeah, well, you can look at it two ways. You can say, well, maybe they want them to save their best for a bigger event, bigger match, or possibly they're saying, hey, cool it off out there. Don't outshine the Roman Reignses and Rusevs and the top guys. And I was hoping, I talked to Jeff Meacham about this the day the Cruiserweight Classic ended, and I said, boy, I hope they don't tell them to go out there and tone it down. And maybe in this match it did, but I don't know. Maybe they were just trying to get Kendrick over as a heel. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the idea in the long run, but I think because this was the first pay-per-view match for the Cruiserweights, I think it was really important for them to have as strong of a match as possible. And it did feel like they were holding back a little bit. So that was a little bit of a disappointment, but it was still a very good match. And afterwards, the storyline was in the beginning, Perkins wanted a handshake, Kendrick refused, and then after the match, Kendrick finally shook his hand, but then attacked him. He actually gave him a headbutt after the match and then walked off. So we'll see if that feud continues between Kendrick and Perkins, if there's going to be a follow-up to that. So yeah, good match overall. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. Next
up, we had Sheamus versus Cesaro in the final match. Well, what we thought was the final match of the Best of 7 series. I actually thought that this was the strongest of their 7 matches, as it should have been, since it was the hyped up final match. These two just beat the crap out of each other, and Cesaro in particular nearly killed himself with this suicide dive, basically landing right on his head. They kicked out of each other's finishers. Sheamus jumped off the top rope to the outside and got hit with an uppercut. So these two just beat the crap out of each other. Very physical match. And then at the end, you had Sheamus being clotheslined by Cesaro over the barricade. You had the doctors coming out, the referee checking on them and stopping the match because both of them were too hurt to continue. Very controversial finish. I mean, fans typically hate these finishes, and after 7 matches, for there to be no decisive winner here in the 7th match, very mixed reaction to that finish. What were your thoughts on the match and the finish?
Yeah, the finish was definitely a mixed reaction, but the match itself, I thought those guys, even Sheamus gave it his best match that I've seen in a long time, possibly years. But it's almost kind of ironic because when he took that header, Cesaro over the top, I mean, he landed right on his head. I mean, you could easily break a vertebrae that way. Yeah. I thought that might have been a match or the time that referee John Cone could have came out there and said, all right, let's end it here. And then maybe the fans would have been like, oh, okay. But no, they wanted it to seem like they were both unable to finish and stretch this thing out even longer. I like to see Cesaro move on to better things, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I wasn't really that much invested in this whole Best of 7 series, so it's not like it bothers me that much that there was no clear-cut winner. And it looks to me like maybe they're going with the Sheamus face turn. He did a promo on the pre-show, and it was basically like a babyface promo. I mean, it wasn't the typical heel promo from him, and he was talking about how he's going to go out there and give it his best effort and all that stuff. So I'm wondering if maybe the two of them are going to have this mutual respect and form a tag team, and they'll do something like that. Really interesting to see how this plays out. So I am curious to see where it goes, and I did not feel it was the worst non-finish because I thought it was believable that the two of them were unable to continue because they beamed the hell out of each other so bad, and in particular that suicide dive that Cesaro did. I mean, it was believable to me that these guys were really unable to finish the match because they had just gone through hell and back during that match. So, I did not find it as annoying as some people did. Now, if it leads to like another best of 7 series, then I'm going to just lose my mind. But if they come up with a clever way to resolve this, then I'll be okay with this finish, I think.
Yeah, the finish wasn't bad considering, like you said, it was so physical. So, we'll see. No more best of 7s, though. That's a little ridiculous. What is this, the NBA playoffs? Come on.
Yeah, they could just do like an endless cycle. Best of 7 series, 7th match, no finish, and then do it again. Just keep doing it just to troll the fans. They could
just do a best of 120. Yeah. Hell with it.
Yeah, why not? All right, next up we had the triple threat match for the Women's Championship. Michael Cole mentioned on commentary that Charlotte was 11-0 in pay-per-view title matches going into this match. I thought this was very good. I enjoyed it. I was surprised that Charlotte won. I figured we would have a title change here, and I was also surprised that Bayley took the fall again, although it's looking to me like the conclusion here is going to be Charlotte versus Sasha at the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, which is in Sasha's hometown of Boston. That seems to be what makes sense here. I was just surprised because Bayley lost on Raw, took the fall, and then she lost again on the pay-per-view. So I was a little surprised by that, but I mean, in the end, if Sasha's winning back the title at the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, then this made total sense for Charlotte to retain here and for Bayley to take the fall. So, what were your thoughts on the match overall and where they're going in this storyline?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that the last pay-per-view I did a review for, I said The Miz would win. You guys said Ziggler. I was right about that. I called Charlotte on this, too. I don't know why. I just wanted to differ from you so the trolls aren't saying, hey, he's just saying everything Aaron is. But no, I thought that she would win. My problem with this, though, this whole logic, Dana Brooks got to go. Like, she interferes too much. Like, and it's not unfathomable for the referee, even in a no DQ match, to throw him out. If we go back to WrestleMania 10, when Diesel interfered, with Razor Ramon, the referee said, "You're out of here." And I just think that Charlotte's credible enough where she doesn't need that much interference from Dana. Maybe one time would have been enough, but I think it was like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah, definitely. There were a couple of times where Dana got involved, at least twice, maybe 3 times.
Yeah, and so, other than that, the match was fine in my opinion. But I like Charlotte. Whether she's a heel or a face, I think she deserves long runs, and it makes it credible when the next person finally does get the reign. Once you have a champion that's had a long run. So I'm fine with it. Stretch it out.
Yeah. So if they do this next match at Hell in the Cell, it's going to be Charlotte who is now 12-0 on pay-per-view against Sasha in her hometown. Actually, I didn't even think about the whole Boston hometown thing. If I had thought about that, I didn't even think about it when we did the predictions, neither video. If I had thought about that, I would have come up with this conclusion for this match. I totally didn't even realize that the pay-per-view was going to be in Sasha Banks' hometown. Now, I'm wondering if they're going to maybe do a women's Hell in the Cell match for this pay-per-view. I think this would be the perfect opportunity to do it. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's time for it. Let's do some edgy with them. And it's the theme. And yeah, I think it's a great, and I didn't know it was in Boston either, but that's why you and I aren't WWE, agents. That would be a good time to do it for her. But, I think we had said in a previous video that maybe it's time to turn her heel at some point. I don't know.
Right.
I think Sasha Banks, her character's, the way she carries herself, suits more as a heel.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Well, what I could see happening is her winning the title at Hell in the Cell and then having a slow build to her turning heel. I think Jeff brought this up, where she slowly transitions into the heel role into the new year, and then you build up Bayley to challenge her for the title at WrestleMania and have Bayley win at WrestleMania and be the new women's champion.
Boom, there we go. No DQ, just booked it.
There you go. So we'll see if that ends up being the plan or not, and if they even do a Hell in a Cell match. I think this would be the right opportunity to do it with the women's revolution in full swing. There's never been a women's Hell in a Cell match before, so
no.
There's never been
I'd be behind it.
There's never been a better time than right now.
Agreed.
And next up, we had the semi-main event. Up to this point, no titles had changed hands. All the champions retained. We had Rusev defending the U.S. title against Roman Reigns. Crowd was very mixed. A lot of boos for Reigns. There were some cheers, mainly the female and kid audience cheering for Roman Reigns. They were doing the dual chants like they do for Cena. The crowd, though, started chanting CM Punk at one point. So
yes, they did. You heard that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this match was okay. I mean, to me, it was just very, very predictable, and nothing about it really stood out to me. It was just your typical bad guy versus the good guy. You know, we'll call Roman Reigns the good guy because technically he is. And in the end, Roman Reigns won the U.S. title. He had the match won with the first spear. Lana was kicked out. Rusev put on the accolade. Roman got out of that, hit the second spear, and won the title. And that was it. So it looks like for the time being, Roman Reigns is out of the Universal title picture. So I'm sure some fans will be happy with that. So what did you think of this match?
Yeah, it's like their way of placating to him, even though he's still playing second fiddle. Oh, we'll just give him the U.S. strap, let him carry that for a while. Let him be superhero, I didn't mind it. In fact, I thought this match, he sold pain more than he has, than I've ever seen, really. That was my biggest thing with him, is that he doesn't sell pain. He doesn't, he doesn't stay hurt for long. He just comes right back. Although they did give him about, 15 kickouts of Rusev's, his super kick or whatever he does.
Yeah.
He kicks out of main moves more than anybody. But yeah, it's a safe way. They're just keeping him, they're putting the strap on him, just keeping him mid-card for now. But, yeah, the match was all right, but, it's kind of formulaic. It's your Roman Reigns match. I call this match the Vince McMahon match because these two guys are the ones that Vince is really behind. He loves them for some reason, but the fans not so much. I heard boring at one point, and I heard CM Punk. But, yeah, other than that, it is what it is. Roman Reigns is the U.S. champ.
Yeah, so you have to look at it from a different perspective that, hey, at least he's out of the Universal title picture.
Exactly. Let the kids be happy and we'll move on.
Yeah, maybe he'll come out and start doing U.S. title open challenges like Cena did. He'd go all the way with Cena 2.0. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, all the way, even with the fan chants.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had the main event for the Universal title, Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Owens worked over Rollins' knee during the match, and Owens was great. I love his trash talking, and he was doing that a lot in this match. He would ask the referee, is he okay, sarcastically, and then he would jump on him again. And I enjoyed this match. I thought it was very good. But again, the finish was quite predictable. Oh, did we skip over Sami Zayn versus Chris Jericho? I think.
Oh my goodness, we sure did. Yeah, we did.
How did I miss that? I'm looking at my own results here, and I somehow skipped over that.
That would have been before the Rusev Reigns match.
That was before the women's match. So let's go back a bit here for a second. We had Jericho versus Sami Zayn, and there was a funny moment when Michael Cole said, "Breathe it in, Corey," and then Corey said, "It's drink it in, you stupid idiot." I love that. Corey was great.
Yeah, Corey's good.
Jericho had GOAT, greatest of all time, on his tights. This was a fun match. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like an all-time classic that I was hoping it would be. It was a little bit sloppy at times. There was one point where Sami Zayn did the DDT, where he goes through the ropes on the outside and, didn't look too good. But
no, it wasn't clean.
Beyond a few mishaps, I mean, overall, this was still a very good match. And Jericho won. I was a little surprised by that, but if you look at the fact that it's probably going to be Jericho versus Owens versus Rollins at the next pay-per-view, which is something that's been rumored, then it makes perfect sense for Jericho to win here and be in contention for the Universal title by picking up a huge win. So I'm okay with it happening. I'm fine with Jericho winning. I hope WWE has a plan for Zayn moving forward, and he's not just going to be one of the guys on the roster. I mean, he should be one of the top tier guys in my opinion. But yeah, I thought this was a good match. And then for the main event, you had Jericho coming out, which again makes sense if he's going to be in the title match at the next pay-per-view. Jericho coming out, trying to get involved. Rollins was able to fight both of them off for a while. Then you had the referee getting knocked down. Stephanie brought out a second referee, and just as that happened, you had Owens hitting the pop-up powerbomb and retaining the title. And at one point when the referee was down, Seth Rollins had the match won, so he'll have an argument for getting a rematch. And then, what I think is going to happen is Mick Foley will say, hey, since Jericho beat Sami Zayn on the pay-per-view, he's in contention for a championship shot, and he's going to make a triple threat match for Hell in a Cell. That's what it looks like is going to happen at this point. What did you think of the match and the big angle with Jericho?
I think it's written on the wall as soon as they had that, him come out, that he was going to be involved down the road. And you know what, though? Jericho has been he's been a workhorse for WWE since he's come back. He hasn't been a part-timer. He's worked a good majority of the house shows. He's worked every Raw. So he's been a workhorse for them. And as you alluded to, if he was going to be in future contention for the title, then it makes sense for him to win over Zayn. I do hope Zayn gets a little bit of a push. He deserves it too. He's been a workhorse for them too.
Right.
A little sloppy, as you alluded to, but yeah, a triple threat match, it very well could be. And maybe it's just sort of a nod to Jericho before he goes off on his sabbatical again to say, okay, we'll put you in the world title contention again. He may not win, probably won't win, but it's written on the wall. Him and Owens have had this thing where they're buddy, and now it's time to see, what friction they might have.
Yeah, I mean, they might as well go with that before Jericho leaves again. I mean, it would be silly to not explore that possibility of them going at it and seeing what happens and having their fallout. So yeah, it makes sense. And overall, like I said, I thought it was a good show. I wish they would have come up with something a little bit bigger in terms of an angle, if not in the main event, maybe one of the other matches, just to have a strong hook for Raw. And it just doesn't feel like there's a big hook for this week's Raw. So that was really the biggest disappointment for me. But I would, like you said, I think I would give it maybe a B+ or a solid B as an overall show.
Give it a solid B, and because from a performance standpoint, it was great. But as you said, there was no major angles that were anything that was leading towards Raw. But they, I'm sure, anticipate getting annihilated by this circus of a debate as well as Monday Night Football. So
yes.
We'll see what happens going forward. But yeah. Overall, not a bad show.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in and watching the video. Any plugs you want to get out before we sign off?
SmartMark420 if you on Twitter. And if you have any questions that maybe want to be answered on air, I can take some of the pressure off of Aaron. He gets so many questions. So if you want to ask me anything, I'm more than happy to answer them in another installment of Power of Pain. So, Aaron, thanks for having me on. It was great as always.
Thank you for being on, and that'll wrap it up for this video. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding Night of Champions, Hell in a Cell, No Mercy coming up. 2 weeks, we got another pay-per-view, and hopefully we'll have you back on here for another review video. And hopefully the quality was good for you guys. We're using brand new software here. The audio should be better. Leave your feedback. Try to make it constructive. Always trying to make these videos better. So leave your feedback. That'll do it for this video. We will see you guys next time.